What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from BackTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And why did you have to go and make it weird? This, this is Soul on Fire. It's a faith-based movie. It's was released by Sony's faith-based arm, Affirm. I caught it when it was on Netflix, and why we can't have nice things anymore. Why is this film weird? Why? Like there's a fine movie in here, and then somebody came in and said, "Hold my beer," and they were like, "Ah, people aren't gonna get the story unless there's this other part to it." So let's include that in there. So Joel Courtney, who was in Super 8, I know I recognize that name from somewhere. I was like, what? He's in his. John Corbett is in this because John Corbett will be in anything as long as people ask him to be in it. William H. Macy is in this because he's been having a year. He was Train Dreams, Running Man. It keeps popping up. And some other people, I don't know. There's just So what is this movie? What is Soul on Fire? Why am I talking about it, bothering to talk? I've already done all my 2025 lists. Is this even important anymore? Yes. We have to talk about disability representation in this movie. And not necessarily even so much the actual representation of somebody like with disability, using your original person or anything like that. This movie's fucking weird at the beginning. Yeah, I used an F bomb in a review for a film of this nature. Roll with me on this, though. So there's a story here which is really clunky, but it gets kind of inspirational with this kid who mm, it's a hard one to sell and a hard one to start, and it's like a whole few. I would. This is one of those movies that if you showed up late to the theater, you'd be better off for it. If you just didn't know what the first 20 minutes of the movie were, you'd be like, "Oh, wow, this is okay. It's not bad." I don't know why we keep cutting away from it, but it's fine. So we start up at the beginning with a man who's working, I guess, construction. I think that's what he works. I don't know. He has a truck, and like out of nowhere, uh, this woman comes up to him, and she's like, "Oh, excuse me. I've I I've heard your inspirational story. I've read about you. I've heard about your story, and I just think it would be so amazing. I just think what you've done with your life, turning tragedy, was just so inspiring. I was wondering if you might come and talk to my girls. I have Girl Scouts. Would you like, this is not exact dialogue, this is basically what she said. Um, I have some Girl Scouts, and I think they would like really benefit from like hearing from someone who's like disabled. Would you like to come talk to them about being disabled and like what that's like for you and what like horrible shit happened to you to make you disabled? That would be great. It would also make for an excellent movie. My name is Karen. I yell a lot in Starbucks. So if you just go to a Starbucks and you ask them about me, they'll know. They'll be like, yes, we know who that basic bitch is. She's always angry whenever there isn't pumpkin spice latte season. And you can meet us at our Girl Scout cookies meeting. Thank you very much, disabled sir. This I do I shake your hand? I don't know if I shake your. Is that do we shake hands? Do we fist? Is it a fist bump? What do we do? I don't know. I don't know what we do here. My I'm a very poorly written character who's only here to bring you to Girl Scouts, which is also completely unnecessary. So we're going to do that anyway. So then he goes and he shows up at this Girl Scout meeting because if somebody came up to me and was like, I've heard your story, you're really inspirational, can you come talk to Girl Scouts? I'd be like, why? Like, I am neither a girl nor a scout. Why? You're gonna have to sell me on being inspirational more. I'm sorry, but the simple fact of being disabled does not therefore make you inspirational. I mean, I guess, but I can be inspirational, but I should not just be inspirational to people who cannot define why I'm inspirational. Like if because I overcame adversity, a lot of people overcome adversity. They're not all disabled. So, again, why me? Is it because I burned my house down and you wanted me to talk to kids about fire safety? Because that makes way more sense as like a cautionary tale. No, no, just you're just so inspirational. This is the problem. Did they make fucking Unbreakable Boy and their autism representation was terrible in that movie too? I think that was Lionsgate, but oh god. So he shows up at the meeting and he does not know what to do. He feels very uncomfortable. He just kind of stands in front of the girls and tells them like what he is and his story. And he's so when he was a kid, he set his house on fire and suffered burns on 100% of his body. And go like that's the story, and you'll learn where it goes from there. So um and he's now he's an adult, and lots of questions like, does it still hurt, all those kind of things. And my favorite one is the one where we get to the girl who's like, if you could go back and change it, would you? And like, instead of immediately answering the question with yes, we have to like flash back to show simpler times, the 1987s. The Cards are up for the World Series. I think, I don't know. It was some game. It was some Cardinal game. Um, I think it was the Cardinals anyway. If it was a different team, I'm sorry. The kid was really excited about baseball, and he's done with his piano lesson, and he he walks past some kids that are pouring gasoline and then lighting it on fire. Is this a thing that kids did? I mean, I hate to be that guy, but this is not outside of my age range of being a child. They're a little bit older than what I would have been at that age, but this is my childhood era. I don't ever remember anybody being like, "Hey, want to go hang out and light some gasoline on fire?" Oh, stay away from stupid people, man. That's the lesson, life lesson we've learned. So kid goes home and he's like, "Man, I'm so sad they didn't let me participate in the lighting of gasoline. So I'm gonna do it inside my house, in my garage, and I'm going to totally fuck it up." Just like the whole process. And so instead of pouring the gasoline first and then lighting it on fire, letting it burn out, I'm going to light a block of wood on fire and then take the gasoline container and pour the gasoline on top of the fire. I'm trying not to be a dick because I think somebody actually did this, and it's like he was a kid, but at the same time, this is all in the scene in the moment, right? This is where and then he flashes back and he's like they're like, would you change it? And he's like, yes. Like finally after like some portion of that flashback, right? We find I'm like, did he have to think about it? Like he'd already revealed that he burned his house down. I would say bare minimum that alone. I think there are a lot of people out there who are like, I overcame adversity and my disability is my own. And no, I wouldn't. I've proudly learned to adapt from it, and I wouldn't. I think when it also leads to the burning down of your house, though, I and like it affects other people, I think it becomes selfish no matter how proud you are in and of your disability and your ability to walk forward, to not just immediately answer yes, you know, you're blind and oh my God, you were in a terrible car accident that killed everyone else in the car but you. If you could go back, would you change it? No. I love my blindness. It's awesome. Like what? You know, it's like that's not how I went blind, but um, I just a lot of people, that's not how, I mean, disability comes from other things. But if your disability, if the situation that caused your disability affected other people and other people were hurt in the process, I would think the answer immediately is yes. Yes, I would go back and change it. I mean, it doesn't make you a weaker person to say that answer. It acknowledges the fact that but for some reason we have to be shown a flashback of simpler times because this movie has absolutely no idea what or God's name to do with disability representation in this movie. I don't even need to review the rest of the film. I hated it. I just, and the sad thing is there's a really good story here about a kid who gets burned and has to like work to overcome the adversity of that, right? Like there is actually a story, like a unique story about recovering from 100% burns on your body and what is that like, and there's like a really cool, I want to say he's a doctor, but I think he's just like a physical therapist who sort of helps him, and he's like, we're going to get you to walk again, like, I mean, it has all the inspirational beats later on in the movie, but man, oh God, the first like 30 minutes of this movie are just, it's so clunky in getting started. And it never really justifies why he needs to speak to the Girl Scouts. It never really justifies why we needed the flash forward to seeing him as an adult at the beginning, or like why we couldn't have had a different way for him to explore. Couldn't he have been brought there to talk about fire safety? Couldn't he make that his, like, I don't know, side quest in life to be like, hey kids, don't f around with gasoline? I don't know. I just And it's funny because like all the reasons I hate this movie have nothing to do with it being faith-based. Not one scene in here has anything to do with it being faith-based. There wasn't like an extra prayer where I was like, "Oh, well, that's too much. There's too much Jesus in this movie." It's just like this movie is so weird. It is so weird. It's I don't know. Oh, I'm it's not even that I'm like deeply offended so much, but the suggestion, I kept thinking if I was standing there and someone walked up to me and was like, I've heard about your story. I find it inspirational. I'd be like, about what? And I've had all sorts of shit. And I'm generally a little bit more passive about my reaction to things. If I'm at work, I'm like, okay, fine. Like, admittedly, and I did not enjoy it. Some Christians found me and laid hands and prayed. Now, if I had not been at work, I'd have told them to fuck off. But I can't. From where I was like, oh God. All right. It doesn't really, like, it's not going to change my life, but I think the most fun thing about that was when they were done, I was still blind, and they seemed legitimately blown away by this proposition because their pastor had told them that they could heal people. They had this belief that if they did this, um, and they seemed very troubled that God had not answered their prayers, and I think they gave up on Christian. I don't know, but they left. But they were very sad after that. They were just like, "Oh no, our powers, they don't work anymore." So I was like, "You thought in that moment that the two of you were?" It was more entertaining than anything else. Offensive, but oddly entertaining because of the reaction. So yeah, I've allowed weird shit to happen, and if you approach me at work, I'm gonna be a little bit nicer to you than if you approach me in real life with some dumb shit. But yeah, if I was just standing out on the street and somebody walked up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're inspirational," I'd be like, "What about me makes me inspirational? Define it." Define my existence. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I can be inspirational to people who have seen me like fight, battle, overcome, but to random strangers, it's so weird. It's just weird. This movie is weird. It's not the worst movie ever. I don't know how to grade it. I'm clearly like personally, my bias here is just so heavy. I think there is a good movie here about the kid, but man, they didn't know what to do with it. They and the representation here is just abhorrent. Just audio description was fine though. Sony usually does pretty good audio description. I didn't have too much trouble with that. I didn't hate the acting. I didn't think the acting was bad, but there's some clunky stuff here. Even just the way that he just immediately goes home and he opens the garage and he's like, I'm gonna put some gasoline in my garage. It's like, what? I'm gonna give Soul on Fire. It's really hard. This is really hard for me because like, is it the worth? No. I mean, like, I War of the Worlds. I'm thinking of movies I've seen recently. They're just like, oh Jesus. So why don't we do like a 4.4 out of 10? It's a rotten. Like, I don't recommend this movie. And it does a lot of self-harm to itself. Like, it's all self-inflicted. It's all just like, couldn't you just have told the story in like a normal fashion and focused on that and then just like be inspirational because we actually get to see his story and we get to see what he triumphs in the adversity instead of telling us in advance that he will be achieving the adversity. I wouldn't have done the whole beginning part of the film. If this was me, if you're like, sir, how would you have done it better? Yes, I would have. I would have just started in 1987 with this kid, introduced us to his family, introduced him to his life. I wouldn't have shown him at all as an adult at the beginning of the film. I would have shown him at the end of the film. And then I would have let it play out from there. And, I would have tried not to have him immediately go home and go into the garage with that sequence. It's like, oh, well, the other kids are playing with, they didn't let me play, so I'm just going to go and completely misunderstand the situation. So, um, I'm also a little worried slash concerned about messaging in terms of, uh, so there's a scene, I don't know enough about fires, but I do know, and this is probably something I should remember and learn just in case it ever has to be me. I don't think it'll ever be me, but having to help somebody who's on fire. But there's a scene when the kid's on fire and his sister is like running and going in and getting water and throwing it on him to try to help put out the fire. Now they did like the stop, drop, and roll, wrapped him in a um, like a rug, and but she keeps like throwing water in his face, and it's like not every fire you're supposed to throw water on. I I know that. I don't know if gasoline is one of them, but it did give me a thought. So, but yeah, most of this is just like the whole weird ass introduction to this movie, and yeah, I can't recommend Soul on Fire. I just sorry. Nothing to do with it being faith based. If this movie was not faith based and just straight up a Sony movie, I'm still same reaction. There's not one moment in here where they brought up Jesus where I was like, well, that's the reason the movie's failing. It's all the other stuff. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.